Hello, my name is Betsy. Welcome to National麻布 YouTube channel. Today we'll be making chocolate chip cookies in my kitchen. So I think it's also really important that you see the products that I'm using to build my chocolate chip cookie dough. So we start with our flour, which is 2 cups of flour, and our salt, which is not something we start with, but MALDON salt to me is the best salt in the world, and I give it a special plug, and you can buy it at National, but if you don't have MALDON salt, I would suggest you go out and use it in everything you cook. It really heightens the flavor. Baking soda, cornstarch, which I mentioned before was my special ingredient in this chocolate chip cookie dough. Chocolate chips, which we're using Hershey's chocolate chips today. Granulated sugar. Light brown sugar I'm using. You can also use dark brown sugar, which will give it a more caramelized flavor. Vanilla extract and butter, 1 egg, and M&Ms. If you want to have a little fun, instead of using just the chocolate chips, you can add some M&Ms to get a little pop of color. And all of these ingredients we can buy at National. So step 1 is to measure your butter. We're going to use 170 grams of butter. And I've cut the butter. First of all, the butter should be room temperature. It's very important that all your ingredients are room temperature. The egg, the butter, and we're going to take our scale here. We're going to turn it on. And we are going to start measuring 170 grams of butter. Exact ingredients. So it's important that you measure exactly. We're going to put that into our KitchenAid, which is truly the best tool to have in a kitchen if you are going to be baking. And along with the butter, you're going to then add both of the sugars, because you're going to cream the butter and the sugars together. And actually, here goes the light brown sugar, which was 150 grams, and 50 grams of the white granulated sugar. So you're going to put both sugars in with the butter. And you're going to start your machine. And this is the fun part. So you lock it on, and you start creaming the butter and the sugars together. And you want to aerate the butter. You want to put as much air into the butter and sugar composition as it comes together so that the cookies have a nice lift. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn this off, and we're going to take our spatula and we're going to make sure we wipe down the bowl, get everything back into the middle of it. You have to do this several times in making any kind of doughs. Make sure you're mixing everything evenly. Okay, so after we have this all mixed together, we'll put this away. We are going to put 1 egg in. Okay, so we're going to turn the mixer back on. We're going to put the 1 egg into the dough and let it all mix together. Along with our egg comes the liquid ingredient, vanilla, which will give a lot of flavor to the cookie. And again, we're going to take our spatula, and this time we're going to do it as everything in here is incorporated into the batter. But before we do that, we have our flour. We're going to add our cornstarch to the flour, our baking soda, our half a teaspoon of salt. And I should say it was 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of the cornstarch. And you're going to whisk it together in your 2 cups of flour. Mix together before we now slowly add it. So we're going to do this very slowly, adding 1/4 cup at a time. And usually the thing about flour, you don't want it to mix too long because you get tough cookies or tough cake. However, we're going to let the cookies rest for over an hour in the refrigerator so that the flour will have time to settle and it won't be tough. They'll be yummy, crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside. So you can see the residual of the flour mixture, the dry mixture, flying off into the air. It's always fun in your face. We're we're going to take our spatula, and this time we're going to turn off the machine, and we're going to run it down the side to make sure it gets incorporated with all the dough. And usually I mix these in, but since I have, and I should have told you at the beginning, I'm going to show you. I have a flat paddle that I'm using instead of a whisk. And the paddle will allow me to put the chocolate chips in without them getting, so we'll put our chocolate chips in and we will slowly incorporate it into the mix, or incorporate them into the mix. Or watch it get all stuck. You're gonna push it out. You're gonna scrape the sides down and use your spatula or your spoon and mix them around. You'll see at the bottom, so you take about a tablespoon of dough here, and you're trying to make the balls the same size so that they bake at the same rate. And you spread them. Since we are going to chill the dough before we put it in the oven, there's no need to give too much space between for an hour, so that they actually take on the right shape when you bake them. They won't spread as much, and they'll be, again, crispy on the outside and soft and chewy on the inside. Okay, so now we're ready to refrigerate our dough balls for an hour or more. It's okay if you leave them for more. If you do leave them for more, you can actually take a Ziploc bag and put the balls in the Ziploc bag. You can even put them in the freezer for as long as you want. Pull out as many dough balls as you want to then bake. But so here we go. We're going to take this and put it in the refrigerator. So now we've waited our hour, we're ready to take our dough balls out of the refrigerator. I think they will have been set up nicely and ready for cooking, baking, and you can hear how hard they are. So here we're going to move only some of them to a new baking sheet because we want to make sure there's enough space between the cookies, at least 3 inches. And now we're ready for baking. We're going to bake them since they've been refrigerated. Okay, so one more little tip. If you really want to stuff your cookies full of chocolate, you can add an extra chip or 2 to each dough ball after it comes out of the refrigerator before you put it into the oven. So you are chock full of chocolate. Okay, so now we're ready for baking action. We've got our cookies nicely placed on the cookie sheet, and we're going to put it in a 175-degree Celsius oven. And we are going to keep an eye on them, but because they've been chilling, we'll probably bake them between 10 and 12 minutes. We're going to open the oven. And you'll see now they're nice and brown along the edges and underneath. So now that we've taken our cookies out of the oven, I'm going to slide them onto our rack here and let them cool, so they'll get cool underneath. We're going to leave them there for a couple minutes to set up, or you can just pick them up and take advantage of hot chocolate chip cookies right out of the oven. So if you let the cookies cool for about 5-10 minutes, and of course if you leave them out for the next day, they'll be fine. But if you want them to eat them tomorrow or the day after, feel free to wrap them in tin foil, and they should last for a good 4 or 5 days in tin foil. And I hope you enjoyed the chocolate chip cookie clinic here, and thank you to National Azabu for highlighting chocolate chip cookies.